Sounds of the ocean soothes my restless soul. The sounds of the ocean, it rocks me all night long. It's Breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Poncho Man. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob. Day 4 from Kona at Huggo's on the Rocks. My name is Bob Bepp, brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels, right fuel, right time. HOKA, Fly Human Fly. Deboer, Wetsuits, Quintana, and of course our Challenged Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, co-founder of Fuelin, Mr. Scott Tindal, joins us. How you doing, Scott?
Not bad, Bob. Not bad. Loving the weather, loving Kona as always.
So we just had Dave McGilvery on, and here's a guy who's run hundreds of marathons and thinks he's not just fit but healthy. He's having a little issue, goes in, finds out he's got heart disease. He's got pretty significant, and that's when he realized you can be fit and not be healthy. And I'm guessing that you guys see a lot of that.
Yeah, I think there's that perception that just by exercising you can be healthy, but
right.
Ultimately probably what you're putting in your body is going to have a significant impact on that health, as Dave found out.
The difference between the average person just walking around the street and somebody training for an Ironman in terms of what they put in their body on a regular basis. Talk a little bit about what mistakes people make and what people should be doing.
Yeah, I mean, Ironman's obviously very demanding. So firstly, calories and just total energy intake is going to be significantly higher. And I think that's probably where a lot of athletes go wrong, especially at the start. They've probably got to focus, I'm getting into the sport, I'm trying to lose weight, so therefore I'm going to train a lot, therefore I'm going to lose weight. And in doing so, they go into this massive calorie deficit or energy deficit that then can result in some pretty serious health.
They start fasting. They start, they say, okay, I'm going to do a long ride. If I do a long ride and don't eat anything, then I'm going to lose weight and I'm going to be fitter.
Correct. And look, I mean, theoretically, yeah, you're going into a large calorie deficit, but it's just not required. So, if you fuel your sessions correctly,
yes,
and you control what you're eating on a day-to-day basis, certainly if you're trying to improve body composition or lose body fat, then that is a possibility, but you don't have to do it by starving yourself. And I think that's the message we're definitely successfully getting through to thousands of athletes now with Fuelin, because they're understanding, I can actually eat a significant amount and still thrive in terms of what my coach is giving me in terms of performance.
And tell me the genesis of Fuelin. What led to the creation of the product of the site?
Well, back 2017, started working with Sarah Piano through Matt Dixon, master coach, and he was concerned she was having very erratic performance. She'd lost her menstrual cycle. She'd had a significant stress fracture in her hip, sick, a lot of health issues, and so he was like, look, I think needs to start working on her nutrition. We obviously went about, changing that.
Yes.
Significantly eating more, and if you've ever spoken to Sarah, she'll be like, she's a very small female.
She's very fresh,
but
very
she was
light, yes.
When we got her going, people were like, why are you eating so much? And she was like, because I can. And lo and behold, bone mineral density improves. She starts obviously lifting weights more frequently.
And she had some great performances.
2019, she podiumed every race she went in. And got her menstrual cycle back, improved her bone mineral density, and improved her health, first and foremost, whilst also improving her race performance. And look, nutrition's part of the puzzle.
Right.
I'm not going to say that it was me that was responsible for her that year, but it played a significant role, and she's the first to acknowledge that, and so is Matt. And so as a result of that, I mean, that was all Google spreadsheets.
So when I look at a number of years ago, and they still do, every year they do an Ironman sports medicine, and they always do a specific thing on heart or whatever. A couple of years ago they did bone density. It was men over 50 and all women. And the men over 50, their bones were like rocks from doing all this training, etc. For the women, a lot of them have had issues with, like I said, menstrual cycle, etc., going way back, and their bone density was an issue. How important is nutrition in that?
Well, I mean, significantly, but also the training and the stimulus. So, so typically in Australia, for instance, they won't do a bone mineral density scan or a DEXA scan for bone mineral density until the age of 70.
It's too late.
Now, by 70, if you've got osteopenia, the progressive loss, like low bone mineral density, or osteoporosis, significant loss of bone mineral density, it's late. So even what we're seeing with our athletes, where we're recommending DEXA scans for bone mineral density and body composition, we are seeing a significant number of male and female athletes with low bone mineral density. And, you think about triathlon. Swimming, non-weight bearing. Cycling, non-weight bearing. Significant portion of training. And then you have run training.
There's a lot less.
There's a lot less.
Especially as you age.
Correct, a lot less, but that's the impact. And then there's weights training. Thankfully, more and more triathletes are getting into strength training. But if you don't know you've got low bone mineral density, your vitamin D levels are low, maybe your calcium intake through diet is low, your total calorie intake is low, and interestingly, carbohydrates has a significant impact on bone mineral density. If you're missing out on those 4 things, and you're not lifting weights, and you're not running enough, doing enough impact, you could be leaving yourself potentially from a health perspective at risk.
So Fuelin, if people go to the site, is it the idea you're getting a personal coach, or how's it work?
So as I mentioned, it used to be Google Sheets. Used to take me, with Sarah, it'd take me 4 hours for the week. I would mirror what was going on in Training Peaks, which was her training platform.
Right.
So what she would eat before, during, after, all laid out, all the macronutrients, protein, fat, carbohydrates, total calories, day-to-day in session. Now it's a iOS app, so we are building the Android app, and that will hopefully be released by December, but it syncs directly with the athlete's training program. So whether you're on Training Peaks, Tri-Dot, Run-Dot, Final Surge, Humango is about to come, it's no longer guesswork. So your coach gives you a session, we sync with that. We know exactly how much you need to eat before, during, after, based on the intensity, the duration, and also what your purpose is. So, Bob, if you're like, look, Scott, I want to lose a couple.
Yes.
But I don't want to get unhealthy. I still want to train. 12 hours a week or whatever. Okay. It's a small calorie deficit, high protein. You're a little bit older. Protein's very important.
Right.
It's important for everyone, not just older men. But it's also important for older women and younger men and younger women. So high protein, moderate amount of fat, and then the carbohydrates will be manipulated so that they fit the intensity, as I said, and the duration of your sessions.
What I've seen over the years is as guys get older, and I think actually probably women as well, it's if I want to run faster, I got to get skinnier, right? I got to lose weight, I got to get skinnier. And it's like, well, if I lift weights, I'm going to get bulky, and then it's going to be harder on my knees and all that. And the reality is you need strength.
But you need muscle. What makes you go fast? Muscle.
Right.
Power. Everyone wants power, don't they? How do you get power? Strength. Muscle. Yeah. So you're not like, this is the misnomer, isn't it? It's people think they're going to lift weights and get massive.
It's not happening. Come on. Your body's your body.
Your body's your body. Yeah. You're not doing steroids.
No.
Like, you're probably eating enough protein, or hopefully enough protein if you're on our program. You're getting enough carbohydrates in. At best, you retain lean muscle mass. You retain. You don't gain.
Right.
Especially in season. It's about just maintenance.
Yes.
Off season, maybe drop back the cardio, potentially more zone 2. You start lifting more weights, more reps. Okay, you might increase a little bit of muscle mass. It's not going to be huge. You're not going to slow down. If anything, injury prevention, it's going to reduce injuries. We know that lifting weights is going to reduce injuries. You're probably going to push out some more power on the bike. Your run speed is probably going to be improved.
It's funny. One of my friends actually years ago had like double hip replacement and all this stuff, and came back to do double Ironman, triple Ironman. I was talking to him the other day, and I like it when athletes basically change what they've been doing. I think a lot of us get into a rut. We swim, we bike, we run, we do minor little weights, do a little bit of stretching, and we continue doing that forever. He's like, yeah, I'm going to the track, I'm running hurdles, and I'm doing rock climbing, indoors. Because he says, I know my body needs to change. I can't keep doing the same thing to maintain muscle mass. I've got to do something different. You believe in that? You got to shake it up?
Well, look, there's an acronym called SAID, S-A-I-D, Specific Adaptation to Implied Demand.
Okay.
So if you want to grow muscle, you have to specifically put in a demand that is going to build muscle.
Right.
So that's lifting heavy weights, lots of them, short rests, blah, blah, blah. Now, that's going to be at a period of time. You're not going to do that in season. That's probably going to be post-season, like your friend's doing. He's picking times in the season to do things. And look, with nutrition, it's the same thing. Do you really want to be focusing a lot on weight loss as you're coming into the pointy end of the season? No, just accept it. You are where you are. That's okay. That doesn't matter. But if you go into that race going, oh, I'm not going to eat anything, like, do you think you're going to have a good race? Like, what energy production, muscle glycogen, liver glycogen, right. how you're feeling, you don't want to get sick, like all these things. Like, if you're going to try and improve body composition, off-season, pre-season, start of season, and then that's where you're at. Just be happy with it.
With race day, it's funny because we can all eat really, really well, and then on race day, you've got sugary drinks, you got sugary gels, and you're doing stuff that you've never done in training because you sort of control your own training, your own nutrition intake. But then on race day, you're going to take a lot of times what's on the course because it's there, and it's hard to carry something for 140.6 miles. How do you deal with that?
Well, that's something we work on a lot in Fuelin. So
okay.
And it's that real lighthouse moment I find with a lot of age group athletes and even some of the pros that we
right.
work with, where what you do in training is going to reflect in the race. So to your point, actually, you know exactly what you've done in training. So you are consuming, if you're consuming 70 grams of carbs, and that's using Morton drink mix or precision drink mix, then you've practiced that to the T. You know exactly where your bottles are,
right.
how you're going to get those, what you're going to pick up on course, how your run's going to go, and you practice it. So there's no stress, there's no decision paralysis, there's no guesswork. It's one less thing that you're thinking about on race day because you practiced it. You understand grams per hour. If you're taking in sodium, how much sodium, and then from a sweat rate perspective, you know exactly how much fluid you're taking in.
And everybody is so different in terms of their
Correct.
sweat rates. We've seen, back in the day, Scott Tindley would go for a 2-hour run in San Diego and have a little spot of sweat, where Scott Molina would be wringing out
That's me.
That's you. You're
yeah,
the sweat guy,
I'm
right?
the sweat guy.
So again, dealing with that, everybody is so individual. How do you adapt for that?
So we within Fuelin, we have what we call a sweat rate calculator.
Right.
So we get athletes to input the weight before the session and then weigh themselves afterwards. Does some fancy calculations.
Yes.
It tells you how much you sweat. We just analysed 9,600 tests, so it's pretty cool. So what it comes out at on the bike, lower sweat rate than on the run, expected because non-weight bearing versus
right.
weight bearing. Females, lower sweat rate than male. Again, fits with the research because lower energy or power production. Power becomes heat. Then obviously in hotter temperatures, higher sweat rate compared to cooler temperatures. So everything we're finding out, which the athletes are doing within Fuelin, is fitting with the research. And that's extreme. For me, a bit of a science nerd, like that's so cool to see that we're seeing so many data points fitting with, anecdotally what we're also seeing in the research. And it's the same.
Yeah.
Sorry, the same with the carbohydrates. So, again, 6,500 data points, individual tests done for what we call carb capacity. So athletes are logging what they're consuming on the bike, on the run. Again, bike is predominantly solids they're consuming rather than fluids, which I thought was interesting as their source of carbohydrates. So gels and blocks. Men, and then on the run, it's higher fluids.
Yes.
Men are predominantly taking in more carbohydrates, around 70 grams an hour as an average. Women are taking in just under 60, which for me is very interesting because we obviously hear these huge numbers with the pros. And obviously working with pros like Jan, Kyle, Imogen, Holly, they take in 100, 120 grams an hour. What we're seeing though with the average intake rates with the age groupers is actually much lower numbers. And for me, that's very interesting because it says that probably it's related to speed, how fast you're going, and your ability to take on those carbohydrates.
It's been interesting. One of my clients, SFuels, what they're doing is, which I think is really cool, is the whole zone concept that you use different nutrition for zone 2, zone
Correct.
3. You believe in that?
Absolutely. That's exactly, look, that motto, right fuel, right time, that's obviously theirs. We believe in carbohydrate periodization. So the intensity is going to make a difference. And we know that from in terms of if we talk about oxidation rate. So the choice of fuel that your body preferentially uses in terms of fat versus carbohydrates. It's never one or the other.
Yes.
It's just a predominance. So lower intensity, bit more fat, a little bit less carbohydrates. You'll still use carbohydrates, but not as much. You don't need to use those. Higher intensity, carbohydrates. And that's exactly how we map it out in Fuelin, in a very simple traffic light system. So red is lower amounts of carbs, green is higher, yellow sits somewhere in between.
I love that.
And it's just easy.
Has this been a lot of fun for you? From
Mate,
launching a brand? And I mean,
look,
it's work, obviously.
No, I mean, this is work, isn't it? I mean,
This is our cubicle. Yeah,
I did some intervals this morning. We were talking, I mean, a cool stat you talk about, like, we were just chatting. Apparently 90% of individuals over 30 never sprint again in their life, which I thought was amazing. It's a cool stat.
I'm sure it's a cool stat. And actually, it's probably real.
Probably. But yeah, I mean, look, my background was sports, team sports, rugby, cricket, ice hockey, stuff like that. So getting into the endurance world, it's changed my life, I guess. And the business is thriving. We've got a fantastic team. I mean, we've got some amazing pro athletes on the roster, involved in the company, working with me, working with the other nutrition experts, and it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Good for you. Are you going to be racing?
I am not racing this weekend.
Smart move.
I am doing New York Marathon next weekend.
Good for you.
I ran Sydney Marathon 4 weeks ago. So
how fast you go?
I ran 3:13, so I'm a bit heavy. I'm about 83 kilos, so I'm probably not built for marathon running, but I'm going to try and shoot for 3.
Good for
this,
you.
so we'll see.
Thanks for taking time, Scott. What a treat.
It's awesome. I do have one thing to say.
Yes.
I know you work with the Challenged Athlete Foundation,
we
and we caught up in San Francisco the other day, and what we were talking about internally was we would love to offer Fuelin to all the Challenged Athlete Foundation athletes.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we're just saying, look, any of the athletes that want to reach out to us, we'd love to have them on the program, and it's our way of just saying thank you to you for everything you do.
Well, thank you, but I appreciate it. Scott Tindal has been our guest. Everybody, Poncho Man, take us out.
Sounds of the ocean, it suits my restless soul. Sounds of the ocean, it rocks me all night long. Cause it's breakfast with Bob.
And Poncho Man, everybody.